Hope you ladies are having a good day, and hopefully we'll come out with some good ideas about small groups after our session today. So we're going to start off looking at our agenda and kind of following it as best we can. That helps me, help you all, and helps me stay on track a little bit too. I would love for someone to read our goal. Ms. Lorelei, I'll let you read our goal from our agenda. Yeah.
Implement a purposeful, intentional small group in Tier 1 instruction.
So we have been talking about what our small groups would look like in our Tennessee foundational lessons when it does tell us to do small groups. So we're hoping that we will gain some insight in that by the time we get finished. Sarah, I'll let you read the need or the focus.
Okay.
Or
How can I plan small group instruction explicitly and intentionally with good purpose?
all right, so we had taken a survey about really the first of the year, right, when we first started. So we're going to go back and look at that, the needs, the top 3 needs that were selected by the district. This is us and Johnson's Branch. And of course, we have talked a little bit about the culture and management part. What does our room look like when small groups are going on, our environment, what we're willing to, per se, put up with when we're having that small group, our expectations. So we are going to reflect on that in just a minute. And we're also going to expand and talk about that a little bit more next week. So we're going to be thinking about that. And then today, we're really going to concentrate, our other need selected was planning. So hopefully today, we're going to look at a routine that we could use when we're doing those small groups in the Tier 1 instruction. And then small groups, of course, just being able to realize that, how that's going to fit into that time span in our lesson. So hopefully we'll touch on a couple of those today. So we wanted to bring that back as a review, or I guess you were curious maybe as to also how did everybody else feel, or what was everybody else thinking about that. So let's go on and go to our reflection. So Vicki, I'll let you read what we want to do on our reflection on the agenda.
Reflect on any implementations and routines and procedures, culture, and management you worked on in your classroom in the last week to ready your students for Tier 1 small group instruction time.
Okay, so we'll take about 3 minutes to do that. So I want you to think about, we talked about what we could do with partner reads and any specific ideals or great things that you've done to get your students ready for those small groups. So I'll give you about 3 minutes to work on that. Okay, we can go back to this in a minute. You all can add to this. You have your binders with you most of the time, so if there's anything else you want to add to that as you're working, maybe this coming week on it. And then next week we'll share. Maybe we'll reflect back and share what you have written for this reflection, or maybe possibly something else that you tried in the next week. So we can always go back and add to this before next week. So we're going to go on down to Part B. We have been working on that beginning of the year assessments. I think that was assessment 6 through 10, and thinking about what the data shows us. We have also, to help Ms. Tammy and me look at our grade level trends and our class trends maybe, and even down to those individual student trends that we really want to be looking at and analyzing. We're going to go back to this sheet that I gave you. I think it was September the 2nd. So does everybody have that sheet handy, or something similar? It doesn't really have to be this particular sheet. In fact, if you will look at, we'll discuss this in just a minute, if you will look at, I have given you a sheet that is it says first grade, unit 1 assessments. And I did this for a model, so I want you to find that. It has Miss Hannah's name at the top. Do you see that? Or do you have
Is that in the ones you gave us today?
No, it should be in your
This
Bible.
should
My
be
binder?
the sheets that I've given you today. Do you have that, or do I need to give you that?
I had it in my stack. It was in the stack from today.
Yeah.
What was in your stack for that?
It was in the
It
stack
says
from
Miss
today.
Hannah at the top.
It's handwritten.
It should be in your stack for that.
So this is just me going through and looking at my data, and actually, this is like just a rough draft, so I didn't need anything fancy to do that.
That's not it.
Right here. There we go. I may have missed Vicky's. So I want you to look at that for just a minute and tell me what you notice or wonder about what I was doing on this particular analysis, I guess. Tell me what it shows maybe and what it doesn't show also.
It shows what the whole class missed and specifically what the student had problems with, I guess. Is that what I'm looking at?
Right. Okay, so you noticed that there were several skills that I could be working on with my whole class, right? And then, anyone else notice anything that I've written down, or?
I noticed you're gonna look back and see where the skills are taught. You made a note.
Okay. So in my thinking, it was like, where exactly, maybe in first grade, were these skills taught? And how could that help me if I knew that? So how would that be helpful? Why would it be helpful to know where those skills were taught?
You could reteach it, maybe in small groups.
Okay, good. So we could use how many lessons were about that, right? How many times were they exposed to this? So anyone else notice anything?
Looks like most, or 6 students mistook one for who, or who for one.
Right. So I made a note because I really noticed when I was looking that the word the teacher had said was the word one, and the students chose the word what? Who. So I made, would that probably be a tricky word? That might be a tricky word that I might need to really work on with my whole class maybe, or in a small group. So anything else you notice about the pseudo word and code knowledge part I had worked on?
You've asked what are the missing sounds.
Okay,
On there,
so
and some of them are nonsense words.
exactly. So it does say, for instance, that this child is missing several pseudo words or the nonsense words, right? But exactly what are those words that they're missing? This doesn't tell me that, does it? So this gives me a little idea of which students are struggling with this, but it really doesn't tell me the true picture of what it is I need to work on with them. So that's left up to me to do that. All right, anything else before we? Go on. What's like a biggie that you see overall in this classroom? What does it look like my students may be struggling with that I'm going to really have to key in on?
The codes.
If we're looking at, look at the whole class.
All vowel sounds.
Right, yeah. So I put a question mark there, right? Because when I was looking at my students, it was vowel sounds, vowel sounds. And when I looked at my whole class, as I looked at at her spreadsheet, I noticed as I was looking that what they were doing was A for I or I for E, so they were having trouble hearing those vowel sounds, so that might be something that I would need to work on. So anyway, that's some scratching that I did, so it doesn't have to be a big fancy sheet like this. So just wanted you all to be aware of that. I would keep it somewhere in my binder though, because everything you have is important as far as you're analyzing your data. All right, so now what we want to think about, did we notice any like grade level trends? Like whole grade level? Have we got to talk about that yet?
That's from their assessments that they did, yeah.
Yes, that would be from your assessments. Have you all had time to do that yet, to really think about?
We looked at the alternate spellings, the schwas, and the other vowels. They didn't do well in those categories.
Okay, so does everybody agree that you had overall
We
students
discussed it.
who, so let me write that down, Miss Vicki. What did you say?
I think it's spelling, alternate spellings, is that what it was in the schwa sounds? And the other vowels in those categories.
So I'm gonna write that down, like, which would be a pretty good place maybe on the sheet that I did give you, or I can give you another copy if you don't have one of that as we go through this. You might want to write that down, that is a particular grade level trend that we're seeing. So keep that in mind maybe for this year and for next year also. All right, so let's take just a minute, and Miss Sarah, I'm gonna let you start first and tell me any class trends that you see in your data.
So mine are struggling with like the vowel sounds for sure, and that's long and short vowels. And some of them remember doing them last year, and some of them didn't. And I did put on the side that we're doing like Magic E that makes the vowel in the middle, the long sound. And I put down here that that's what we're working on right now. That's the beginning of Unit 2.
Right.
So that's something I really noticed because, you know, just from what I've been here doing.
And possibly last year it helped a lot to kind of know maybe what also your class struggled with. Not saying that this class would do that, but
And like Vicki said, and we talked about this at lunch the last few days, the schwa sound is very hard because it is tricky, and that's, you know, tricky words are hard. One of our spelling words is you, and they want to spell it Y-O-O. I'm like, no.
okay.
Yeah, we talked about that this morning with the long U sound, because the long U sound is so different than the other vowel sounds, because they get that "y" in there with it. And you know, you got umbrella, and it has a clear sound like the schwa, but then when it goes long, it's not to o. It's just a different sound. And then they have the "y" sound like Y, where their tongue is touching the roof of their mouth. And so it's just a different sound for the U than it is other long vowels. And so we talked about that this morning.
Well, you all noticed that. All right. Good job, Sarah. Holly, what about your class trends?
I noticed on the beginning of the year assessment, overall I had the lowest scores on the word reading for the vowel digraphs and diphthongs, the spelling alternatives, spelling the long vowels, the schwa, and the other vowel sounds. So those were our areas.
So those are kind of your class trends. So we're thinking about what we may need to do when we have the opportunity when that comes up, or how can I stick that in, or in a small group. All right, Miss Vicki,
Okay,
class trends.
I've got the tricky words. There's several of them that didn't do well on those, so I've been working on those already in the classroom. And the comprehension, they did really good on it, but the other vowel sounds on, in the SWA, they just didn't do well on.
So I'm hearing schwa a lot.
It's coming, it just hasn't, we haven't covered it a lot. I don't know if they did much in first grade or not.
So would it be worth their time maybe to go back to first grade, see where that was in their lessons, how much that was, or where it was introduced maybe? I could even check on that also. I'll write a note here, since we are mentioning that. All right, Laura Lee.
Well, just in this most recent assessment that we did, I noticed that my kids just went blank on the doubling the consonant spelling when they added ing. And, we worked on that, and then when, we assessed them on it, like for running, they didn't double the consonant, but then they had smell and it was already doubled. So they didn't use what they knew about smell to double the consonant for running in some of the other words. And 2 of the major words that they missed on the word list was fence and cell. They're not hearing something in cell. A lot of them, was it cell? No, it was the other one. Fence, it was not cell. I'm trying to think what the other one was. Was the ED word, whichever word ended in the ED suffix. So I'm already noticing that they're having trouble with the ED sound because it has 3.
Right.
And we went over that pretty thoroughly, but I think that's something that's going to have to go back to small group instruction and be reinforced several times.
Maybe not just once, or
Right.
not lesson 1, and
Right.
go on. Right, so that's great. All right, glad you're noticing that and thinking about those small groups to help those students who are struggling with that. All right, so now we're going to think about those individual student needs, which Laura Lee was saying. I know I've got students that are having difficulty with that. Who are they? What kind of support can I give them? So let me go down here and pull up. So let's go right here. No, wrong one. I'm not good at this. And I just blanked it out. All right, there is a sheet that, there it is. Looks like I have, and I'd like you to find that. And this is kind of like a new little sheet that I worked on, and what you're going to do is take about, and you will have to work more on this because this is going to be part of our bring back, but we are going to think about a target skill from our assessments, like Laura Lee mentioned, a skill that she thinks she might want to work on.
ED.
So, right, it may be some type of it may be a particular vowel sound that you're seeing that some of your students are going to need help with. And so we're going to think about that target skill. Who is going to need that? But that's only half the battle, right? So that's kind of the easy part, right? We go to the assessment, we see, this is what we see, this is who we see that's struggling with this. So now what do we do? Once we have,
We teach.
what do we do? All right, so let's see if we can help set that in motion a little bit. And let me find the agenda here. what we're going to do is look at, it says Introduction to Unit 2, and it should be a sheet that has all of the lessons for Unit 2. So I want you to look at that for just a minute. If you don't have it, let me know. Because we've been working on a lot of different. So tell me, are we just now starting on Unit 2? Is that right? Just now starting. What lesson are you on in Unit 2?
2.
Lesson 2, Unit 2. All right. So I see a partner read. Okay. So hopefully we worked on something during that partner read that we're going to be able to share with someone next week. So I want to take about 1 minute, I think we can do this pretty quickly, and go through with your highlighter pen or with a pencil and just highlight every time you see small group in Unit 2 lessons. And they're on the back also. If you'll let me know, we have about 10 minutes left, so I can fast up or slow down.
Well, we got 15 minutes left.
Oh, great, okay. My phone is not working, it's lost its speed, so.
Ms. Dale,
Yes.
I am not seeing the introduction of the schwa sound until Unit 5, Lesson 7 in 2nd grade.
Okay, what about first grade? Is that taught at all
I
in
didn't
first
find
grade?
it. I didn't find it, unless it's, hidden in one of the lessons.
Okay, thank you for looking at that.
Miss Deb,
Yes,
I'm like Sonia. I've been going back through first grade and I couldn't find the schwa either in the first grade. I only saw it in the second, but now the alternative spellings were in Unit 6 and Unit 7 of first grade, but I did not see the schwa either.
so would we want to wait until that is taught before we would small group that? Ms. Tammy?
Possibly. I'm going to do a little bit further because I'm wondering, since it came up on the Unit 1 assessment in 2nd grade, there has to be a reason. So I don't feel like they would put it on there. What unit did you see it in, Sonia, 2?
Unit 5, Lesson 7.
It's second?
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't think it would bring it up that early before they get to it. So let's do some more research just on the schwa. But the alternative spellings were taught in first grade in Unit 6 and 7.
Thank you, Ms. Tam. Thank you, Sonia. All right, so everybody has this highlighted. Where do you see the first small group? What lesson?
4.
Lesson 4. Okay, but we are going to look at lesson 5, and I have given you a sheet that has just the small group lesson on that. Do you have that, guys? Please tell me you do. It says,
Is that it? Is that the small group part or what?
I think it's this one.
Okay.
if you look down at the bottom, it says grade 2, unit 2, page 71. Small group, the frog race. So we're looking at day 5, lesson 5. So if you'll turn it over, I think I have,
Yeah, just left behind.
turn over on the back.
That's gonna be right there.
So let's look at small group 1. Is everybody with me? Okay, small group 1. All right, Sarah, read what we do with small group 1.
Yeah.
This group of students should read with you. Ensure through your observations that students are firm in their understandings of quotation marks. Remember to continue your anecdotal record notes.
Okay. So it's kind of specific a little bit, but not really, right? There's really nothing in place that tells you exactly what to do, right? So if we're thinking about, we want to work in something with what? Quotation marks, right? So we would probably choose a passage from our decodable, maybe that we could go over and read with those students. Of course, group 2, we worked on group 2 a little bit about 2 or 3 weeks ago about the partner reading and reading with that purpose and having that culture and environment in place where we are going to be able to also help group 1 when we're pulling them. So what we're going to do is think about a routine that we could do each time we pull a small group for tier 1. Now this is not tier 2 groups, okay? This is during our Tennessee Foundational small group in our lesson, like what we see right here. So look at, you have a sheet that says small group routine at the top, and it looks like this. Everyone see this? All right. So sorry we have so much to cover. Okay, everyone have that? So what we want to think about maybe when we're thinking about what am I going to do when I pull that small group?
She's wrong.
Let's think about this. We want to do an out of text activity, and we want to do probably an in text practice of some kind, and then we want to do some type of comprehension while we have those students with us. So I did a little model. Now this is not from 2nd grade, okay? This was a 1st grade model. But I want you to think about what you could do with it in your 2nd grade small group, which is what we'll work on for a bring back. Okay, so thinking about maybe quotation marks in lesson 5 as we're thinking of this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to model the out of text practice, what that might look like. And to me, if we're thinking about the ARG, that might be your warm up. You know, in that ARG, we're going to talk about the ARG and how to use it. This is kind of almost similar to that, but so I'm thinking maybe like about 4 to 5 minutes for this out of text, out of context. This might be where you do your skills, that missing skill that you really want to work on with that student. So let me practice. And I made a boo-boo this morning when I was doing this, and one of the teachers caught me, so on tape. So everybody makes mistakes, right? So what I would do in this first part of the routine, this is where I want those students to really be able to hear the sound. So I might start off with, okay, boys and girls, today we have been working on the A sound. Can you say the A sound with me? Can you say this sound with me? Okay, so your students, you want your students to be able to say that sound with you, right? And we have been listening to words that have the A sound in them. So I'm going to give you some, in today's lesson we did that, right? We listened for the sound in those words. So this first part that you're doing is kind of like a listening type activity with no writing, right? So then I might say, I'm going to give you a word, and I want to see if I'm going to say a word, and I want to see if you can tell me where you hear the A sound. So the first word is ape. Ape. Can anyone tell me where you hear the A sound? Can you say it to yourself? And where do you hear the A sound?
Guinea.
At the where?
The beginning.
Good job. Right in the beginning. All right, good job, Laura Lee. You were a good listener. You heard the sound of A in the word aid at the beginning. All right, let's listen for another one. Where do you hear the A sound in the word play? Anyone else?
The end.
Again, good job, Holly. All right, Holly heard the A sound in the word. Let's all say the word play. Let's segment the word play.
Play.
A, play. All right, so you could do several words depending on how much time you have with that particular skill. So then that would be the out of text part of that lesson. Also, if you did you're also working on, let's see if I can find it. There it is. All right, so let's say you wanted your students to participate with the little whiteboards. So I'm gonna let you all participate. Uh-oh.
I'll try to get an idea.
But I probably wouldn't hand these out until I finish my part.
Do we have another marker?
I do. Okay. I have a marker and a board. Here's a marker. Now I'm going to say some words, and we're going to write those words, and then we're going to see if we can hear the sounds in those words. So the first word that I want us to write is the word fat. And then I would probably segment fat. So your children are probably used to but this is a first grade lesson, so they're probably used to already doing this. So as a teacher, I would also model what that looked like. Okay, I see that everyone has the word. Let's say that word together. The segment. Or however you all do it with your, when you segment. Now we're going to write a word that sounds like the word fat, almost. In fact, it has the same number of sounds in it, and that is the word fate. Fate. So now I want you to write the word fate. So then you would be curiously watching. All right, and however you all, Miss Vicki did it that way, Miss Sarah did it that way. So then you would do the, that is a vowel team, right? Because that's what it's called, right? And in first grade, I think it shows them doing it like this. And those two letters work together as a team, right? So you talk about that again and probably model a couple of more words for them to do on their board. Okay, so all in all, if you knew what you had your plans ready, you knew what you wanted to do, that probably would take about 5 minutes. So we're going to go on. So that was just something I wanted to share with you with that.
Would you use the second grade? I just taught this.
Without what?
We just taught this. We just had this lesson. So wouldn't you use what we're
Right.
teaching in the classroom?
Right, you're using the horseshoe, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So you all, Sarah did it like that, so it was a little bit different.
Mine was already done.
Okay, so I did the first grade lesson, so that's why I did it like that, Miss Vicki. All right, good job. Now let's look down at the in-text on that same sheet. What did I do with it? There it is. This is where, what do you think you would do there with the in-text practice?
Use the decodable.
Okay, so you're gonna go into the decodable, right? That's where you are wanting to help those students be able to read on second grade level, right? No matter what, no matter where they're reading, no matter what their level is, we want to get them to where they are able to read that second grade decodable. So what are some of the things that you see that you might could do in a small group to help those students who are struggling with fluency?
Choral, echo, repeat, and whispering. All those.
Depending on what students or who you have would determine what you would need to do with those particular students, right? So that's some ideals that I've written down, and we have had that when we did the shared readings. We have talked about all of these. I have seen you all doing this when I go in the classrooms. So that is something you can also do in the small group. They might need a little bit of scaffolding on reviewing, perhaps the long E sound. That's a previous skill that goes along with this particular decodable, and they had trouble with that. So I'm going to use the decodable, and we're going to highlight all of the E words. I'm going to have a list of those words that I'm going to let them read out of that decodable, and we're going to go over those words and really stress that E sound when we're reading that decodable. So always have a purpose, okay? Always think about what is it that we're going to do when I let them read. Always be taking those anecdotal notes. Listen to your students. What are they saying? Are they fluent? What are they missing? Are they repeating themselves? What are they struggling with? So that's your purpose in your small group. So then go on down to the comprehension check. In this particular lesson, there were 4 questions about this story. So there are several different things that you could do with that when you let each child answer a question. You could use the text and let them find text evidence when you ask them a question. And they answer, you say, not only do I hear a good answer, but where did you find that in the text? And let them highlight it. Let them take the highlighter and see where they found that in the text. So anyway, those are some ideals. This is from a first grade, okay? So I want you to relate it or connect it to your second grade and how you're teaching it and what you're doing and what you're seeing with your particular data. So are there any questions about this small group routine?
Are we giving you books next year? So we can highlight in these books.
I'm thinking probably what you could do, if you did want to do a small group lesson where you wanted to highlight something, you might make a copy of that particular passage that you wanted them. It may just be like 2 pages that you wanted to read when you brought that small group up there, because you're not going to have just a whole long 15 or 20 minutes to read the whole story maybe. So if I'm being specific about that, and I know that this child does not know those long E words in this particular passage, I might just run off a passage or 2 if that's what you wanted them to work on.
Just enough for your small group.
Just enough, like not, and also I gave you all those,
Yeah, Sarah printed off the books.
Print off the whole book.
Yeah,
I got my
So-
ones, thank y'all.
just a minute, girls.
Oh, sorry.
We're almost finished.
We wanted to be on time.
You're good. You're on time. You're good. Yes, I gave you all those protective sheets where you could just stick it in those protective sheets. Who still has those?
I got a bunch of them
All
if
right.
somebody needs them.
That would be wonderful though, to
We might
instead
could
of,
stick that whole little book in there like
you
that.
could, you could, and highlight it and wasting so much paper doing that. So is that a good idea? All right, good deal. All right, so basically, we are at the end, and I'm going to let you go ahead and take do your takeaway when you get back to your classroom, which is at the bottom of the agenda. Your bring back is to work on a small group routine similar to the one I just went through for your bring back next week. So you would be telling me what skill you're gonna work on, what decodable story you're gonna be reading it, and we're gonna get ready to do before long. On a small group. I'm excited. All right, thank you all.